Hey, good morning, and welcome to the Comics Experience Graphic Novel of the Month Club. This is our February 2026 book for the Adult Club, and we've got a really good book for you today. Beautiful and smart and lyrical, and it's just a sweet book. And the book is FUSTUK, or did I pronounce that right? It actually,
You did, yeah. That was great. You've so far 2 for 2 on the name and this.
Man, I should have asked that question ahead of time. I know, but yeah. So FUSTUK, it's really a good book, and we are very happy, as you just found out. We are joined by the author Robert APELIAN, who's right here.
Thanks, guys,
Hello,
for having
sir.
me. I've done a couple different press events so far for FUSTUK, but as my first book, this was the thing I was the most excited about because I'm excited to talk about everything. I'm having to be weird about spoilers and stuff. So talking to people who've already read the book and getting engaging questions from people who have real you've read it and thought about it. I'm so excited. So thank you for having me.
Excellent. No, I'm really glad. I liked it quite a bit.
I'm very glad.
So let me start. I have one question that I start every show with, and one question I end every show with. So let's stick to that part before we go into the freeform bit. And the first question is this: it's why comics? Of all the ways that you can express yourself, what is it about comics that talks to you, that speaks to you, that excites you, that thrills you? And I ask this particularly with the knowledge of how long it takes to make comics. Comics are extraordinarily labor intensive. They don't especially pay very well. You don't necessarily get feedback in the way that you get from other arts. So with all of that in mind, why comics, Robert?
It's a great question. And it wasn't always wasn't always what I wanted to do necessarily. I went through a couple different, when I was younger, fantasizing about, I knew I wanted to make stories and art. At times that was video games or I wanted to make movies. But I always loved to draw. And I always read comics, especially I've talked about, I read a ton of manga. Most of my shelf here is manga. So I think it was very intuitive to me. And as someone who is an artist, it felt like a natural fit for my skills. And I think as I've worked in the space, I've definitely found that there are certain things that comics do that no other medium does do. I think the main unique thing about that is paneling, which is something I'm super passionate about. And I think the feeling of turning on to a impactful 2-page spread there's no analog, I think, in other mediums. I think there's it's this sense of weight and significance that's not quite space and time. So that's something I think is just it hits so good. And I think there's so much, it's a good balance between a film and a book where there's a literary kind of slow paced aspect to being able to really dig into all these little details and take your own time with it that I think is cool. There's a lot of things to love about it. Probably don't have to tell you that, but those are the things I think that really struck home to me. It was a good fit for my particular skills. It's something I've experienced a lot, so I have a lot of opinions about it, and I had a lot of thoughts of how to do it myself. And yeah, and they're great. So,
did you study comics in school? Did you study art generally? What's your educational background there?
That's a good question. Not at all. I actually was a software engineer in school, and then but I had always done art for fun, and I had kind of when I went to college, I was okay, I'm putting the art aside. It's time to be practical and make money, and I had the kind of this child of family of immigrants, capitalism pilled sort of attitude, I think. And then as I got more and more burnt out and missed being creative, I was I don't need to do this. I would rather, and part of it feels like studying in the sense that I've built up, like you mentioned, that doesn't pay well. So that helped to have that background. But once I had decided to do it, I did take classes kind of at local schools. Gerald Dye, I don't know if you're familiar. He just did an Einstein bio comic. He's great. There's a lot of great comics. He's a local artist, and I took classes with him, and kind of I feel like I became his pupil. I was really trying to make a comic of my own. So that was about 2017. I just was I'm going to do this for real. I'm going to make a real comic. And then I just worked on my art, and I made little side comics for myself. I made a lot of pretty junky indie comics. kind of learning the ins and outs and what I needed to shore up. Like I'm mostly like a character design guy. I feel like that's what I do for fun. So realizing how many backgrounds I would have to draw and how long that takes was a big part of the skills I had to get in order to make a comic.
Yeah, so you were making minis, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, I can show.
Oh, sure, if you've got one at hand, yeah.
The first thing I did was this gin and tonic. I love showing this because the art sucks. It's so bad. It's just fun to see. There's like a specific page that I always like to share because it was clear how little I wanted to do backgrounds. I could probably send a picture of this so you can not have to look at this. But like,
yeah, I can see.
It's nonsense. Then this like rug, I just like took a picture and I like filtered it down, so it's terrible. And then I did this with a friend
because it's kind of floating in space because you don't have any.
The perspective is awful. Yeah, and there's everything's floating in space. I didn't want to do a background ever, so it was funny. And I wrote this with a friend, and he would make fun of me a lot, which was a big part, I think, of my growth process. Was having this friend of mine, John Kim, who wanted to write, and so we just like did comics together, made fun of each other for being bad, and I think like improved with that. He would troll me with giving me descriptions of things that would be way too hard for me to draw, like. And this scene will take place in this library of 1 million floating candles. was like one thing he said. That it was like an inside joke to us. So in the book, you may recall like chapter 5 when Katah is exploring the thing. I made it. I was like, I'm good enough now. I'm making a library full of 1 million floating candles, basically.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That one's for him.
Were you selling these at local stores or at conventions or mail order or all of the above?
Pretty much conventions and local stores. Like I was going around to like Hub Comics in Somerville near me, putting them in stores. I have a couple other things. Massachusetts Indie Comic Expo, MICE. I sold things there. So that was it really. And mostly I just kind of made it to make it. I feel like.
Yeah.
I had not really, in my head, I knew this was for practice. I didn't really have ambitions to make it big with any of these comics. I was posting them online and selling them, but that wasn't really the goal.
Yeah, and so are these like 32, 48 page kind of length of things?
This one is pretty much, I don't know exactly, it's like 48. I didn't have a standard, like, I didn't know what was right. Yeah. The other two I made were much shorter. This one is like 25 pages. I posted like webtoons. Right. And this one's literally 8 pages. It's just nice. Like mostly a silent little like detailed hamster on a witch thing. I don't know.
Yeah. So you said that was 2017 that you took classes, you were doing comics a little bit after. When did you start kind of figuring out this?
Pretty much right away. I was like, I'm going to make a real big, comic, or at times I thought maybe it would be a manga. I had like a broader, bigger fantasy idea I wanted to do. But eventually, like pretty early on, I think I found the note in my phone where I was like, family drama. And I was like penciling in ideas about this family drama. I think it was like 2018 or 19 when I first was getting the ideas in, but just like at a really high level. And then the last of these mini comics I finished in 2020. Okay. And then I think that was when I started doing thumbnails for FUSTUK. I kind of wrote through thumbnails because I wasn't as confident in myself as like a pure script writer. Yeah. So that's kind of how I did it. And then I went to like, I took that to classes with Gerald and sent it around to people. Sent like the actually Sarah Alfagi, who did Squire. I don't know if you guys have read that. She's a friend of a friend.
We had picked that for Kids Graphic Novel Club when it came out. So
nice.
I interviewed her and Nadia.
Yeah, great. Yeah, she's a friend of a friend, so she actually helped me. Like, here's what my pitch looked like, basically. So here's what you need to make, and that was so helpful because then I was basically going off of that to figure out how to format my own pitch and what kind of things I would need to be able to present, like the synopsis and all that. So that was a long-winded way. The question I think was just when did I start doing that? But I think 2020. Yeah,
that was a perfect answer. That answered a bunch of questions and led me in some other places to ask. So you started pitching this 2021, you said? Um,
That was when I got the book deal. Was the end of 2021, I believe. Yeah, yeah,
so I mean, you landed at Penguin Random House.
yeah,
They are not a small press house.
yeah. I don't know if it was dumb luck or my agent's really good. I got a good
Uh-huh.
agent, so that was great. Yeah.
Did you have multiple offers, or what, or were they the ones who went, we want it, and the
I
agent went, take that?
did. I initially I first had an offer from IDW, and then we got offers afterwards from I forgot who the other one was. There was one other, and then Penguin, but Penguin had the biggest offer. They're a big um, place, so they were all great. But that was the one that was like seemed that you had to take it. If the advance is big, that means you know you get more money. They may devote more resources to it, so that was it.
Yeah, no, and it means they have faith in it too,
Right,
which is
right.
good.
And they've been really, really great, honestly, in terms of the amount of work they've put into helping me get this thing out there. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The book's, well, with the end pages, but pretty close to 300 pages long.
yeah.
Did you did you have any concerns personally that, like, I've done 48 pages at a time without backgrounds, and now I'm expected to do 300 pages? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, because
Oh,
that's a pretty big hill to have to climb.
absolutely. I knew it was going to take me way too long. I was very worried about the deadlines. So the fact that the deadlines were kind of flexible, or like they would be like, the amount of money I'm going to get is going to stay the same, but so it takes as long as it takes, kind of. I was super worried about that. And like, and again, it took me a long, long time. I think I had to work pretty constantly for the entire like 4 years because I can show at some point my like I was not happy with a lot of my pencils. I would have to redo. There were some pages, like the second page spread in the book, where it's just like the father and all the food, right? It's like
Yeah,
this ridiculous,
yeah.
extravagant thing. I was like, this needs to be the best page of the book, so people flip
Mm-hmm,
through it and they see it and they're
mm-hmm,
like, this looks
mm-hmm.
good. So I'm not even going to pencil this page. That's just I'm going to do that at the very end when my art is as good as possible. So I left a lot of I don't know. I threw a lot of balls in the air for me to hit later, kind of a thing um, because I knew that I was still growing and I was going to grow a lot
Yeah,
before I did the inks. So,
yeah, yeah,
which
yeah.
that was new to me. Like the way I'd done all my other books was pencil, ink, tones, done, next page. Whereas this is, you do all of the pencils all at once, you edit them, and then you go through and do all the inks, which seemed insane to me at the time, but now is way better because it's a lot more consistent, I think.
Yeah, well, you can also see the whole size and scope of the project, whereas if you're doing
Yeah.
one page at a time, you only see the trees and not the forest.
Yes,
Yeah,
totally.
yeah. Um, uh, this is going to sound like a rude question, but if it took you 4 years to do this, I'm assuming that, like, you didn't even make minimum wage doing this, right?
Not, no, yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
in fact, like, it's 4 years of work. I think, again, from the end of 2021 to it coming out in 2026, that's like, it's a little under 5 years in terms of like how much what the money was spread out for. So yeah, that is tough. I'm very lucky to have a partner that works full time and is super all in on me doing this. That affords me the ability to do this at all.
yeah. Were you like literally putting in 8-hour days most of the time?
Depending on what part of the process, like when I was doing the scripts, I was thinking about it all the time, but there's not that much active work, right? It's a lot of just
Absolutely,
like
yeah,
walking around and being like,
yeah,
this is messed up.
yeah.
But then when I was doing the pencils and inks, it was frankly, it was like 12 to 14 hour days.
Wow,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that
Yeah,
was,
comics will break your heart, kid. They
yeah,
will. You know.
I'm finding that the thing is like, I want to make more. I want to keep doing this. The weird thing, like, I still feel like 300 pages is short. Like,
Mm,
I feel like I had to really pack the story in as tightly as possible. There are some things I wish I could have fleshed out more, had more moments of space. But that was like as long as they let me make it, and that took 5 years. So I'm like, I want it to take less time and be longer, but not be any less detailed because I love, this. My style is the way it is on purpose. I like that So I don't know. I don't know how. And I have a kid now since I did this the first time, so that's not going to help. So I have
Yeah,
no idea.
yeah. I do think that comics are a process of editing in
Mhm,
so many ways, and getting it down to the tightest, most precise thing that you. Now, you said that your reading background is manga,
mhm.
and that's a very different kind of
Right. That's
way
the
of
least
storytelling
edited.
because it's serialized
Yeah.
weekly, and they're not thinking about it that way. But when you're doing a graphic novel,
Mhm.
I really think the tighter and narrower and shorter you can get it, quite often the better that it is.
Yeah.
Um, because so much of the magic of comics is not saying things, right? Letting the
Hmm.
audience fill it in, letting the audience figure it out. I very much think that the gutter is the most important part of the comic,
I totally agree. I think that has been like, I love my editor. I love Penguin. That was something that was a bit of a fight to have moments that were quiet. Like initially there wasn't narration. That was something they wanted to have narration. They wanted it to be more text and stuff. And that I
Sure.
want to make. I want to have fully visual, especially as an artist first. I'm trying to make as much of it, like you said, like tell the story with show don't tell as much as possible. So that was a bit of a battle, I think, throughout the book was trying to find my places to show more than tell when I could.
Yeah. Well, like I say, I thought it was really fantastic, and
Thank you,
particularly as a first graphic novel,
thank you.
very strong. Like obviously you're gonna get better, right? Like if we have this same conversation a decade from now, you're gonna look at this and you'll be like, oh, that was
Uh-huh.
terrible. What was I even thinking? But for a first graphic novel, I thought this was extraordinarily strong.
Thank you very much.
With a
Yeah,
lot of heart and a lot of stuff.
thanks. Yeah, I
There's
think. Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
no, please go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I just yeah, I think for me that's like what I want out of art is for it to be as emotional as possible. I think with something like you mentioned being tight and compact, my feeling was like, okay, I'm gonna get like two or three emotional hits on my reader at best. So I everything that I did in the whole book was to build up to those big emotional hits, basically. And for me, that's 2-page spreads. So it was very much about trying to make, yeah, to optimize for that. And that's just I don't know, that's why I like. I want to make people cry. That's what I think is good art. I don't know,
Yeah, yeah,
laugh, cry, but yeah,
yeah. Um.
I tried
What
my
was it?
best. I'm sure it didn't work the same for everyone, but
Yeah, no, I mean, look, there's definitely pages in here I could go, well, I don't think this page worked because of that. Or, but like that's not really the point. The point is
I
how
would
did the
love to
whole.
hear that stuff. Maybe we could do that another time. Like I'm always
Yeah,
trying to grow and improve. I want to
yeah,
have an objective view of myself as a creator. So
yeah. Well, actually, here's the thing I'll say. I really liked that your onomatopoeia were all
hmm.
in Arabic, yes? Persian, what am I
Armenian and Persian,
okay,
depending
okay.
on the setting or character making the sound.
Yeah, I really liked that as an aesthetic choice.
Hmm.
I don't know that it helped the clarity of reading the
Hmm.
story in a lot of
Okay,
cases. You know,
fair.
uh, yeah.
That's fair.
I saw the point that you made in the back matter
Hmm.
about how you liked that in Japanese,
Uh,
but yeah, and there were places it didn't work, but
cool.
that's
No,
a
that's
it's a
good to know.
relatively minor criticism overall. I figured out 90% of them. It's just the
Yeah, yeah.
10% that I didn't was like, wait, what's he trying to
Hmm.
say? Is this a chewing sound or a wind sound? I can't quite tell,
Hmm. Fair.
that
Yeah,
kind of a
yeah.
thing, you know. Uh so you're this takes place in a fictionalized world,
Uh,
and one of the things that I wasn't sure about is how much of some of the more fantastical elements are actually from Armenian culture
hmm.
versus that were created for this story.
That's a good question. Yeah, I think in general the fantasy-ness of the world changed over time. At the beginning, it was like, I'm just going to do whatever and make it all creative, be however I
Mhm.
want it to be. And then as I like did more writing and more research, and my goals were more explicitly to represent cultures and stuff, um, brought it closer and closer to reality and brought the cultures closer and closer to real world cultures. Um, so what I ended up with is it's a pretty like thin layer of fantasy on top of like historical fiction, frankly.
Yeah.
Um, and the elements like this, the like a div are like that's a real Persian and Armenian sort of
Okay.
um, fantastical element. The appearance and abilities thereof, totally not. Um, it's more of like a strictly mythological creature versus like a lot of things in the Middle East get dicey where it's kind of mytho-religious and there's a lot more like hard rules. Div are more strictly mythological, like in the Shahnameh is like one of the it's sort of a historical epic in Persian history. Um, they're like usually like kind of white and spotted ogre type looking creatures when they're painted, which I do reference. Like when you see into the Kaf Mountains in the final chapter, I do have like one like div that you would see in actual art. Um, and like shape shifting is a constant ability of theirs as well. So I took those kind of elements, but the whole like nature of making deals that's a little bit taken from like Jinn, and that's kind of a common theme in a lot of mythological creatures deals with the devil type of stuff.
Sure.
Um, so yeah, that the mechanics of that I honed for my own narrative purposes.
Yeah.
And
What about
Jadu, go ahead.
that was literally
Okay,
what I was about to ask.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Jadu, like that is like the word for sorcery.
Mm,
So in that capacity, I took that from culture, but otherwise, like the tattoos and everything, that's totally something I just wanted to do for aesthetic purposes. Like I love
interesting.
the look of like carved artifacts, like bowls and stuff that you'll find in history and nowadays that'll have poetry or prayer written on them. Um, so I wanted to like I thought that would look cool as a tattoo, and I actually like had the idea for like a big like weirdly the reason that it is this way. I'm glad I can talk about this with spoilers is because I liked the idea as a big climactic final like determining moment for him to have to carve a tattoo into his own fingers. I thought
Mm-hmm.
that was just that would go hard basically, and so it's
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
that was the reason that the tattoos was the magic system. I thought a
Mm-hmm.
snap, this Beshkan snap, is a cool cult. That's a real cultural element, but just for like partying. So I wanted to kind of pay homage to all of that, use the kind of visual language of carvings, and and have that one moment that I thought would be cool and impactful.
Yeah, no, and I think it succeeded there. So you said that Jadoo is sort of the cultural equivalent of sorcery, which
Mm.
definitely came across, but there was a physicality that was implied uh in that it seemed like there was instruments in the kitchen that were
Mhm.
Jadoo.
Yeah.
And sorcery tends to be an internalized thing, not an external thing.
Yeah.
Again, this is why I'm asking questions because
No,
I
yeah, totally.
slightly unclear to me, like
Mm.
how was that working?
And I don't know if I don't know if I maybe explained this very well ever, but basically like the Jadu that sorcerers use, they can like enchant
Hmm.
items with,
Mm-hmm.
basically. So some Jadu is more like useful for that. Like the satrap of the palace where the family were chefs, his is the ability to like levitate things. So he can enchant uh, artifacts to give them like flying abilities. That's why there's so much like flying stuff in
Mm-hmm.
their palace. So that was kind of the rough idea, and that was again bringing it back to the way that bowls and plates and art and incense burners would ever have all these intricate carvings, which I can share at some point. Some examples in real life. Um, I was just bringing that back. What if those were magical enchantments? Because I think that's what they look like to me. My grandparents always had stuff like that around their house that I always thought looked extremely magical and fantastical,
Yeah.
especially not knowing what they were or what they were meant to be. So, yeah, that was me just kind of tying that into the world as a
Neat.
world building element.
Neat. No, very, very cool. Very cool. Um, uh, was I going to ask you here? I was going to ask about what. So, how did you, in terms of constructing the story, did you was the family was the central family elements of the mom being sick where you started from, or were the more fantastic elements what you started from that you added to the family drama? If that does that make sense as a
It
question?
does, yeah, yeah. It was maybe not in the way that you would expect. The initial like two pieces I would say that I started with were this debate I had in my own head of like how much like grew up pretty assimilated, but then I have strong ties to my culture that I was not necessarily respecting. How much do I let myself live freely, quote unquote, versus how much do I like have responsibility to my culture? That like the debate of the two oldest siblings, is like I would just write out those like pros and cons and conversations in their voices basically, and that's how that developed. So I knew that was going to be the thematic core, and then and food is a perfect thing to use for that. So I knew I wanted the structure to be some number of siblings. They have to cook a dish as good as their legendary dead fathers in order to whatever. And that whatever, that took some finding actually. Initially it was like maybe an inheritance thing or some kind of like uncovering some mystery their father left behind. And I settled on healing their sick mother to kind of tie it into a more intimate and emotional thing. But that was, yeah, that there's a lot of different, like in the beginning there was way more siblings. I think I had like 7 siblings
Oh wow.
at one point, and then I was like, there's no way I'm fitting this into one book with this many siblings, and none of them needed to exist. I stuck to the fewest people I could do, which was the 2 people to represent each side of this argument, and then 1 character to be the me kind of navigating that, and
Mm-hmm.
then the parents and all anyone else I could fit in, basically.
Yeah, well, and the little kid too to be
Yeah.
the spirit of wonder, you know.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a good. You know, as I said, comics are editing, right? Like you start
Yeah.
with, oh, I'm gonna have 7, and then no, 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 no. I
Totally.
gotta, I gotta keep it simple, stupid. Keep it simple.
Yes,
You
yes.
know. Yeah, yeah.
So many things changed so much from even the thing that I pitched is like bears almost no resemblance to what we actually ended up creating. I mean, not no resemblance, but like the magic system was more complicated. Everyone had multiple abilities based on which fingers they used to snap, and
I
it was
see.
like
Yeah, yeah.
way over like wrought. And it was we really honed things down. There were like Agato had like multiple daughters. I wanted the family to feel very big and full because that's how it is for me. But then the more characters you have, the harder it is to give them attention. And even with the few characters that I did end up with, I still feel like, for example, Gato's wife doesn't really get much to do, and I feel guilty about her all the time. I feel like I wish I gave her some more space, but there's just so little. There's so little book to do it with.
The so that honing was this mostly from you, or was this mostly from the editorial side?
It was a lot through the editorial side, actually.
Mhm.
I think I was and I think this still is an issue I have. I think clarity is. I have all the rules are very clear in my head. Every writer is probably like this. So I don't think things are confusing. But then the editorial staff is like, we need to pare this down a lot. This is like way too much stuff. This is way too ambitious. Let's like let's get it tighter and tighter and tighter. So they were constantly kind of pulling it in, and I think it's good. It's a good relationship to have. It would have been a much less sensible book, I think, without that. Um, so yeah, I had my original editor who acquired the book left right after the script phase, and then my another editor picked up afterwards. So both of them had different, I think, things they liked and different goals, but I think it was all very helpful. I know my
Mm-hmm.
like when I first pitched the book actually um, to my agent, the 3 siblings were equal parts main characters, and they were like older as well. And they were like, for a YA book, we need a young adult protagonist. Um, so you're gonna have to make him the main character, and the other 2 are gonna have to be like secondary characters. And that killed me. I really didn't want to do that. But I do think it helps the book feel focused.
Let's actually talk about that YA aspect because
Mm-hmm.
because it's so it's weird as a bookseller.
Yeah.
Um, I find very little commercial value in YA, and the
Mm,
reason is because of the way that people read comics.
hmm
People love comics as a kid, and then they hit middle school and they go, "Oh, I suddenly discovered the opposite sex, or
hmm
cars, or whatever the thing that you start developing your adultness
Yeah.
on." And the second that that happens, almost every kid goes, "Comics are for children," right? And then you don't really come back to comics until college age.
Hmm.
This is
Interesting.
a thing I have seen very, very
Okay.
consistently. And so there's a very narrow audience for
Hmm.
YA. Yet in prose publishing, YA is huge. It's like this
Interesting.
giant thing. So my question is was it being YA something that you was part of your original pitch, or was this something that either your agent or the publisher tried to steer you towards a space, or some combination thereof, or something else that I didn't think of?
No, I think you basically nailed it. I mean, I think in my experience with comics, I think that the effect is similar, but and I think another experience I think people have is they read comics for kids, and they get to a certain age where they're maturing and going through puberty or whatever, and then they just start reading all comics. Like I went from reading comics for kids to reading like seinen, like adult manga immediately. Like I was like, I don't need kid stuff. I'm reading the cool stuff. I'm reading
Right.
Watchmen. I'm reading whatever. Like it's like anything I can get my hands on. So I don't think like I think the distinction. I agree with you. The distinction is not that important. I think that like, and I think that publishers agree. Like they wanted this to be like YA crossover, like the kind of YA that adults do read. Um, it was not my like I didn't set down to write a YA book at all. I sat down to write a book. I had the story idea. I in my first like drafts, like they're saying fuck and like it's like totally like I'm totally breaking the rules. So but I guess like despite I guess what you've said, publishers seem to think that YA is the market. So that was definitely there. My agent and my mentor Gerald Dye was like, "You should make this YA." My agent was like, "You should make this YA." Publisher wanted it to be YA, so that's what I did. And I didn't really have to sacrifice
Yeah.
almost anything to get that to happen. There were times where I had to fight to like have more blood in a panel, but that was
Right.
basically it. I doesn't, yeah. The story I
It,
wanted to tell could totally fit in the YA
yeah.
framework. So,
It's interesting because I think that even today, with 20 years of publishing comics, I don't think that any of the big book houses, the Penguin Rand houses, the Simon and Schusters, the Harper Collins, etc. I don't think that they actually understand comics yet. I don't think that they understand like that something that works in one
mhm.
does not work in the other. That they don't sort of understand the aging cycle or the life cycle of a comic reader. um I find it curious that, like, you'll tell them YA is a strange thing in comics
Mhm.
because you're showing things, right? Like, okay,
Yeah.
here's a really good example. There was a it was actually from DC, in fact. There was a Catwoman YA comic that they put out that has like 4 or 5 pages where the group of characters are all talking back and forth, and they're all kind of teens, but they started talking about cock sizes, right? Like who were supposed to be like teenage girls, and but because it was in physical space, right? Like
Uh-huh.
you can see the camera moving around. It changed the context of the words. Like if that
Yeah.
had been in prose,
Mhm.
it would have been completely it wouldn't have been unusual, right?
Okay. Uh-huh.
Um, but once you start having a camera moving around and
Yeah.
people talking and people going, "Oh, is it this big?" Like it totally changes the context of how it works, right? You were talking about blood, right? Like, so
Yeah.
that's one of those things, right? As soon as you show violence, it becomes adult. It
Yeah.
just
Right.
does. It Little kid violence is cartoon violence, right?
Yeah. But you could
If
write that someone gets their arm ripped off, but you
Right.
can't
You can
show
you
it.
can
Yeah.
you can say it, but as soon as you
Yeah.
show it,
Yeah.
that changes the game entirely. And
Totally. Yep.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely ran into that. And I think you're totally right. And I think that's inconsistent. I agree that people are figuring that out. Like, I think we've seen, not to keep going back to manga, but like you see like shonen manga pushing the envelope farther and farther, like something like Chainsaw Man. I don't know if you've read, just like
Sure.
guts is spewing
Yeah.
everywhere, and there's like naked women, like there's like sex, there's like anyway. So it's like, and that's shonen. That means it's for kids. Like that's the publication.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I think we're finding out that these rules are loose, and the publisher is just incentivized to publish what will sell to this audience, right? So if that's inappropriate to them, that's fine, basically, until someone
Yeah, I
complains.
mean, yeah, except that I think you run the risk as a publisher. I'm really getting into the weeds now. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but I think as a publisher, you run the risk of either alienating your audience or confusing them, or
Mhm.
again, I'll give you another good example. It's with superhero comics. That superhero comics used to be comics code authority, right?
Yes.
Like you couldn't
Yes.
show anything or talk about anything. And then, 20, 25 years ago, you started getting the Jeff Joneses and people like that who started going, yeah, but, I think it would be cool if Superboy would like punch someone's through the chest. Like that would be really cool to see, and that became a point where parents would come in going, my kid's really into Spider-Man. What should I get them? And I would have to go, okay, here's where the Spider-Man comics are, but we really have to like walk you through them
Mm.
carefully because some of them are wildly inappropriate for your child. You
Yeah.
know, some of them are perfectly great for your child, and sometimes you can't tell the difference just by looking at them at a glance, right?
Right.
Like not just like the violence, but some of the thematic concerns
Yeah.
that were starting to occur in stories. Not that the superhero genre is inherently for children, though it kind of is. But as soon as you start confusing the audience of parents,
Yeah.
you run into some potential problems. Look,
That's
I'm
fair.
in San Francisco. Like,
Uh,
no one's ever going to try to arrest me for selling a comic to someone because we fought those battles a
yeah.
long time ago in San Francisco. But if you're in the middle of the country, uh, you know,
Yeah.
there are a lot of blue-nosed parents out there who will freak the heck out. I mean, we can see that with things that have been banned,
I
things
was
that
gonna
I look
say.
at like, who tried to ban Bone, right? Like
Yeah.
somebody tried to
Yeah.
ban Bone. Bone? Really? You know?
Yeah, totally. I think yeah, I don't know how much those fights can be fought because of like people are going to ban anything that they find like, oh, this is making my kid think for themselves, so it can't,
Yeah.
we can't have that or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So,
Spooky.
yeah,
Spooky.
times we're living
Um,
in.
well, so okay, it's interesting to me that your focus kind of changed as you were making the book and based upon what your publisher wanted from you. I find that an interesting puzzle to try
It
and
was a
have.
puzzle. And I think
Yeah.
like the reason I'm happy to talk about it like that I am is because I really felt that I was able to still tell the story I wanted to tell without really
Yeah.
making any sacrifices. I
Yeah.
think like, I just actually had a pitch rejected. So there's still it's still hard for me to get the kind of ideas I like in some cases, but this one I think came out. I'm really happy with how the book came out. Without, it wasn't like meddling on the part of the publisher or anything. It was, I think a good balance was struck.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to suggest that there was anything
No, yeah.
untoward about any of this.
Uh-huh.
And to kind of get to the point that you sort of halfway made. I mean, I'm picking this for the adult club. I'm not
Yeah.
picking this for the kids club. I'm picking it for the adult club, and most of the people who are going to be reading it, who are part of this, are 30 years and older.
Mm-hmm.
So even though it's YA, it's still thematically. I don't know that a kid would care about cooking, right?
I
Or
think you might
sick
be right.
mothers, or right? Like
Yeah,
it's not like those are all adult concepts,
that's probably
Uh,
true. Yeah.
young adult, sure, but I mean, I don't know. It's funny. It's a
Yeah,
funny
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I think you're probably right that it hits better for adults than for the supposed intended audience, which is
Mhm,
not terribly surprising to me.
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
I'm okay with that.
Um, So there's a lot of design elements
Mm.
that are in here. I'm talking particularly things like the bordering that on these
Yes.
panels, the that is very, in my mind, is very Persian, right? Like
Hmm.
I think of Persian rugs and things like that,
Yep.
obviously. And I'm sorry for being such an American, Jesus.
That's quite all
Um,
right.
but what, like, mechanically,
Mm.
how were you doing this? Were you laying out a pattern one time and then kind of cut and pasting that pattern over and over again? Or were you actually hand drawing all of that every time?
So that's a good question. My general rule was for the art in the pages to never copy paste a single thing, right? Like
Yeah.
I want to make sure copy pasting pencils and transforming pencils is okay, but the ink layer has to be real. Even though I was doing it digitally, I wanted it to look as traditional as possible. That said, for the borders and things that are sort of on a meta layer above the real story, I allowed myself to do transformations and things, so it kind of sits in a different plane. So
Yeah.
I drew them by hand, but then yeah, the borders were copy pasted
Hmm.
for because each chapter has its own sort of visual language. I think like the reason I did it, a thing that I love about ornamentation and this kind of like rugs and stuff is they look when you just like look at them, we kind of associate them as background elements, right? They're just patterns, they look cool, and you kind of glaze past them. But traditionally they're all made by hand, and there's like so much symbolism that is embedded into them. Like there's a lot of intent. Um, so I tried to study that stuff and make the panel borders each kind of mean something or have some specificity that brought it to whether that was like cultural or if I was using specific symbology. Like the sort of cold open flashback, I use like a cedar tree, which represents like immortality sort of and like generations to kind of that's the whole point of the themes of the story with the father and all that.
Yeah.
The chapter 6 is all backgammon patterns, all backgammon boards, because I kind of use a little backgammon metaphor when the kids are captured um, and stuff like that. And then the final, the blues, and the distant past flashback. That one's a Armenian pattern, like Khachkars, like kind of church carvings style.
Hmm.
But yeah, I referenced real things. I have a couple books that I was able to pull through and kind of take patterns from the real world, but then edit them a little bit for to add symbology I liked, or just to make it kind of work for fit for purpose.
Yeah. And so and you said that everything within the panels you were hand drawing.
Hmm.
So like the pants and the
Oh,
clothing where
okay.
there's
With that exception, that's true.
with
Okay, that was like I forgot. There's a couple anime that do this where there's like kind of like a weird like layer
yeah.
of a texture, and then so for clothing textures, each of the family members has a signature texture that I
Yeah.
just kind of lay in as sort of as a fill. So that was cheating. That's true.
Yeah. That's no, it's not cheating. That's not cheating. I'm literally
No,
asking,
I know.
how did you do it? It's not
Yeah.
cheating
I
it's
think in the
not
future
cheating at
though,
all.
oh, it's cheating because in a world where I had more time, I would have hand drawn all the clothing textures. And I think in the future, I will try to come up with good shorthand to do textured clothing without having to do this kind of cheat, because I think it would be stronger that way.
Yeah, but if it took you 5 years to get these 300 pages done, if you were going in and drawing that stuff by hand, I feel like it would take you 10 years to have done this book,
Well,
right?
I got faster.
Yeah.
So now I can do it in 5 years. I say to myself, I'm probably lying. We'll see.
Yeah. The only person I can think of who is actually hand drawing that stuff is oh my God, why am I blank on his name? Who did Habibi and did
Craig Thompson,
Craig
right?
Thompson. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Uh and it's crazy because you can see the variation in the line,
Yeah.
which is how
And
I know that he hand drew it. And
and I love sorry, go ahead.
it was beautiful, but I cannot imagine how long it must have taken
Yeah.
him to sit in there and do those little tiny little curly cues and
Yeah.
good
But I think
Lord.
that's kind of, to me, that's the whole point, especially now with like AI on the
Yeah.
horizon. Like I'm going farther and farther into the effort is the point type of thing. Like it wouldn't mean anything if it was easy. And the harder it was to make, the more impact it can have emotionally. So I think that there's like a real narrative weight to giving yourself too much work. I don't know. It's obviously not healthy to some extent, but I think it's worth it. I think that's how you make art that persists.
Yeah. No, I would very much agree with that statement. You've got a lot of good gesture, a lot of good
Mm.
storytelling, a lot of good faces and movements and things. And I can tell very clearly that you like a lot of manga.
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious in this style and how it works out. But there's at no point that I thought, oh no, that the pattern that he put in here is cheating because I would never think that's kind of
Yeah.
crazy, because it mixes really nicely with the technique. And again, there's definitely places where, I can tell that's hand drawn,
Mm.
in this particular panel, that's hand drawn. You
Yeah.
can you almost always tell.
Good.
You now you said you work digitally.
Hmm.
Is that always how you've worked?
Nope. And actually, the whole book is not entirely digital.
Okay.
But yeah, I did traditionally completely, and I wanted to do it the real way with like a dip pen. I was using the kind of the G pen, really the full manga toolkit. Um, but there came a point. I think because I was still growing as an artist, I benefited a lot from being able to just quickly redraw and
Sure.
erase and stuff, final ink lines. Um, and it's a lot less messy and it was a lot faster. So I eventually kind of went over to digital, and with the like caveat that I I am not a big like tools guy. I don't like downloading brushes. I was like, I'm gonna find one ink brush that looks like real ink, that has enough noise and texture, and that's all I'm gonna use basically for the whole book, which is pretty much what I did. But there is some traditional art in the book. In the interest of making things, the Jadu or magic used by Oz specifically, and the Kof
Mhm.
Mountains, I wanted that to feel otherworldly. So whenever Oz is doing, uh, doing anything kind of magical, that's done with. I do that with traditional ink brush on paper. Like when it uses its like silencing ability. There's like a big ink spot on the page. I did that for real. Then like the big time where he chomps, the whole background is all kind of like I had layers and layers of pages I just painted black to layer on top of each other for texture. And then the finale when they're in the Kof Mountains,
Yeah.
um, the line work of the characters is digital because they're from the human realm, but then everything in the backgrounds is all painted um, in kind of the style of classical Persian painting. So that's all
Nice.
watercolor, actually. That
Nice,
stuff.
nice, nice. The is the lettering a font from your handwriting, or is it a commercial font?
It is a commercial font. What is it called? Cloud Splitter. It
Okay.
was something they picked that kind of looks Armenian. Basically, we workshopped a couple things. But I do think Hassan Otsman Elhau, I think that's how you pronounce his last name. Apologies if it isn't. Did the lettering and does I'm not exactly sure what wizardry he does, but he's one of the greats. So I was really
He
fortunate to
is
have
one of
him
the
work
greats
on it.
for sure. Yeah, yeah.
Very lucky to
Yeah.
have him work on it, and he did amazing work. Yeah,
It matched very well to your line work, I thought.
yeah,
So
I, I agree. I was nervous about it at first because it was the one thing I didn't do in the book. So I think I gave him a hard time in the pencil stage with the first like versions of his lettering, when it was pretty rough on his end, and then he came through and it looks amazing. And I should never have doubted him, but I was real anxious about it the first time through.
since he's a letterer, did he have any commentary on the onomatopoeia?
He did not. He kind of left that to me. I think we had talked about someone doing that too, but I was pretty insistent on wanting to do that myself. Um, so yeah, but yeah.
Is that an actual component of the art, or did you do it as a separate layer?
It was usually a separate layer, but not, I mean, depending on, sometimes I just mess up and it's on the
Mhm.
layers, everything else. And it's a different brush. So that's more like a calligraphy brush.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, no, I did that in line with the art for the most part. Yeah.
yeah.
Unless it was like, overlapping stuff, obviously. But
Yeah, no, you've got a really good balance between kind of that big broad manga, lots of circles, lots of things, and then kind of that western, like lots of little lines and cross hatching kind of
Yeah.
feel.
Thank you. Yeah. I think like, yeah, that was something I honed into. Like initially I thought I might not do any tones or maybe
Mm.
one tone and I would do everything else was just hatching. Um, and that didn't look so good in the end. I think still that would be my one art complaint for myself. Not to like, I don't know, down talk myself. You guys already read the book, so it doesn't matter. Um, is like, I think some of the lines are too thin. I think that leads to lacking clarity is I don't always like, I really wish I had gone in thicker to on the subject matters of the panels because I think with a lot of hatching and the background elements and the very few tones that there are, I think that things kind of blend in a way that I think it took me a long time to hone that in. I think colors are not my strong suit, which is why I did the whole thing kind of monochromatically, pseudo monochromatically. Um, but I have progress there for the future.
Yeah, and I think that the story wouldn't have worked without it being monochromatic
Mhm.
in terms of your structure of flashbacks and things that are happening in the present. It's very
Yeah.
very clear
Uh,
when things are supposed to be happening and how it's going on. And then when you get to the end of the book,
mhm.
when you get to the mountains, and
Yeah.
it's just a riot of color. Like
Uh,
it really
yeah.
works very nicely, you know.
Yeah, that's like stealthily. I don't know how much that comes through, but the implication there is that the entire book, including the orange parts that were the present, were actually also a flashback being communicated to the father. Because the
Hmm.
whole book, that is sort of a flashback being shown to Soren in the Kaf Mountains. So only the
Hmm.
stuff in the Kaf Mountains is the actual present. And there's a snap, a Beshkan finger at the beginning of the book and at the end of the book, kind of bookending that flashback, quote unquote.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, it's very very thoughtful. Okay, so let's talk maybe a little bit about the food of it.
Mm,
Um, and each chapter is named for a particular dish.
yeah.
Was there a conscious thing of that, or was it just this seems where the story is at the moment?
No, it's pretty conscious. I thought, I don't know when I decided to do that. Usually there's like a central food for each of the main scenes. So at some point it was very natural that, oh, here's a great chapter title for every chapter. That's a good system to have. I like to have systems, I guess. Um, and I knew certain dishes I wanted to represent because they're like the dishes I grew up loving. But then the Persian dishes, that's not my actual cultural background. I'm Arabic Armenian. So it was like that was something I had to learn and kind of decide. That was mostly what fit narratively. Um, but yeah, I mean, it kind of just worked out pretty naturally in terms of what was the subject of the chapter to begin with. The way I structured the book ended up just making that pretty natural. There are certain like the one that's the most like thematically deep, I guess, is that chapter 9, Madzunabur, the soup, because that's like that pops up a couple times throughout the book. It uses kufta, which is the first chapter. Um, Gato kind of makes that out of the kufta for his mom in chapter 4 when he's before he leaves to join the rest of the characters. And then it's kind of a dish you make for people who are sick. At least that's what it is to me. It was a dish that I liked when I was sick. So that's kind of the making it for the mom and all that. That's why
So it's
the
the
cop
equivalent of chicken soup then?
kind of, yeah, totally, totally. And I think like I've said this once in the past, but like I think as a beauty, talking about like how I think the effort is part of the point. That's a dish that's kind of annoying to make. Like a
Mhm.
big part of it, at least according to my grandmother, is it's a yogurt based soup, and you have to like add the yogurt, add the water, and then stir it in one direction continuously for 20 minutes. Otherwise, it'll like curdle. So you have to sit there and stir it. So I think there's something kind of beautiful about the fact that like you do something that's extra laborious for someone who's sick to make for someone else to help them. So that's something I knew I wanted to represent, especially because that chapter 9, that the one where all the flashbacks are coming together, that's like basically where I wrote the whole book backwards from.
Mm, that's interesting. Oh, you wrote the book backwards from that. I see that. That makes a lot of sense, actually.
at least
Uh,
structurally, like
yeah,
on
yeah,
the high level. And I knew that was like,
yeah.
this is the emotional heart of the book. This is the thing that
Right.
needs to land the most. This is why the flashbacks and the colors we were just talking about, why they exist, is all for to land this bit.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Do you have any cooking background yourself or particular experience?
Casually, but yes,
Yeah.
I'm a huge cooking nerd. I would say,
Mm.
my parents, everyone in my family cooks, much like
Okay.
in this book. My aunts and my parents are great chefs, so I didn't grow up cooking like the kids in the book did. I just kind of sat. I was more like Katah, where I just like sat there. And was like, I'll let you guys do it. But I ate a lot of good food, and so once I was on my own, it was not far fetched for me to start cooking by myself, and I think I'm an all right chef. These days, I'm very into Sichuan cooking just because I don't know, I love it. So
That seems pretty far culturally different.
it, it is, and yet I think they're similar. I think they're both like in this is total non sequitur, sorry, but they're like inland cultures, not access to fresh ingredients historically, so they use a ton of spices, very maximalist, and that's the kind of thing both in comics and in food. That's what I like. I like maximalism. I like detail, and that's how it feels to me.
Love it. Oh, that makes a lot of sense, man. It makes a lot of sense. So craft wise, you put 5 years in on this. Uh, I mean, that would average out to, I don't know, 60 pages a year, though I'm sure that's not
Mm.
how you actually worked.
Mm.
Uh, that's only 2 pages a month, so I'm sure that's not how you actually worked. Um, what, like, did you start off slow and then speed up towards the end? Did you, I kind
It
of just
was
want to see what a day would be like for you.
Yeah, I mean, again, each step of the process was different because I wrote it, I was all like the synopsis, and that was a couple months. So that
Hmm.
was not that hard of work. I wasn't, then it was a lot of editing. And then the thing is, it's publishing is so much hurry up and wait. You've probably heard this from other authors. So I would like kill myself for a deadline for the script, and I would hand it off. And they're like, okay, we'll get back to you when I review it. And then it would be like 3 months of nothing. And I'm like, what do I do in this time? I think in the future I'll have to find ways to make money in that time. But at the time I was like, I guess I'll just start working ahead on thumbnails and kind of practice to get myself ready. So there was a lot of waiting. That's part of it. Um, but yeah, once I was doing I think each phase, based on how much time I had, it would be like the pencils. I think I was trying to average 6 per day. That's the time that I had. For the
Six
inks,
pages a day. Wow.
six
Okay.
pages a day of pencils,
Uh-huh.
and then the
Hmm.
inks I had to average 2 pages a day, and then the colors was again back to like 6 pages a day. I think I had to, because of the inks, and I kind of structured that schedule myself because I knew the inks were the vast majority of my work is going to be.
Hmm.
So that's where I gave myself the most time. But then, yeah, the pencils, the colors, and the script I had to do, a lot more. Yeah.
Now I know you said you have some art. Do you want to kind of maybe show us like thumbnail to pencil just so we can see some differences between how you work?
Yeah, totally. Let me actually, yeah, let me, uh, let me find it. There's one example I wanted to show of just like how much the art changed.
Yeah.
So let's share the old screen.
Sounds good.
So this is like I think these were the this is the level of my thumbnails, which frankly is probably too detailed for thumbnails.
Yeah, no,
Um,
those are almost pencils at that
right,
point.
right. And I think that was kind of on purpose so I could practice,
Hmm.
frankly, because these
Hmm.
were the first time working on a comic full time. So
Yep.
um, this was kind of the same page. Then in thumbnails, I made a lot more dynamic, but it's not that different in terms of like how rendered it is.
Hmm.
But then still, this is not what the ink looks like because I redrew basically all of these faces for the final inks because I just didn't like the art as much.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that's one thing that changed a lot.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean that this is. I mean, what other examples do I have to show with thumbnails? I think like I use tones in the thumbnails too, just to show a lot of. Whoops. What am I doing here? Um, to get the sense of like the composition, I guess, because that was something I was
Yeah.
a little anxious about in terms of readability. But a lot of things like there's like Gato gets possessed in this final confrontation, but originally I just had him like get chopped to pieces but still be alive, which they were like, that's confusing and looks very violent even if it's not.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of different things like that. There's one whole less chapter in the first version. It was going to be shorter. The whole book's like 270 pages, but um, I didn't feel like got really earned his Jadu well enough. So I added the chapter of him exploring that kind of library.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
trying to think of
I
any
saw
other.
that in a couple of those, you even have the onomatopoeia there in the thumbs, which is
Yeah,
seems a little unusual. Most people aren't putting that kind of stuff in that early in the day.
I think for me again, Onomatopoeia was very much compositional. So
Mm-hmm.
like I wanted to make sure I knew where it would go and what I would do. This one's almost one to one with the final product.
Mm-hmm.
And also it's
Yeah.
helpful for me.
This to me is much more like what I expect thumbs to look like, where
Sure.
I can follow what's going on here, but it's not it's not ready.
Yeah.
You couldn't publish this.
I think in the future I'll be better at that. I felt like I had to prove to my editors that like
Sure.
it was gonna look cool.
Yeah.
So I was like, even in the script, I drew things. Like so many times there's like this thing happens and then character makes this face. Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
then so
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I'll just draw the face. Like here's a good example. This is thumbnails, but this like face reaction from Nuri, that was in the script originally. Because like this face I think is a funny beat. I don't know how to describe it, and I want to prove that it's a funny beat so I can keep it. So I just like drew it. And the
Yeah.
actual final inks are almost exactly the same. I think I never changed that pencil. That one came out well.
Huh. When you're yeah, and you can if we're good, you can pull that down now.
Sure.
I saw what I wanted to see. It looks good.
Okay.
Uh so I was just about to ask so when you're thumbing, how much of your brain is mostly concerned about how the page looks and flows
Hmm.
versus the immediacy of a gesture or a facial expression or something that a character is having?
Um, I don't know if I have a good answer. I feel like this is kind of an annoying answer that the page flow stuff is pretty intuitive to me just from having read a lot. So I felt like I actually didn't have to think about that too hard.
Okay.
Maybe I should have thought about it more. I don't know. I've heard some people on Goodreads say that they found the story hard to follow, so that might just be me. But I like the 2-page spread was totally like uh, balancing that 2-page spread was really important to me. Like I I hate the idea of the book being read on phones. I want 2 pages side by side at all times, um, because I think that's. I also I think a lot of people have a tendency to skim comics and just read the text, right, and just kind of flip past the art in their minds, kind of subconsciously. So I really wanted to be conscious about the bubble placement, treating the art like it was another bubble, right, to make sure that your eyes are forced through the art as a kind of transaction so that has an effect on the pacing. So it is very much that was very consciously what I was trying to do. And then yeah, the gestures of the panels, I think typically I try to follow that reading order for that. And there are times where like we made script changes in once the art was already down, and I would want to redraw the panel in order to match the bubble placements. Because it would feel wrong to me if it didn't follow that flow well enough.
Yeah. It looked to me that your thumbs anyway were set up as
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
pages in all circumstances, so that you're very conscious of what's the left hand page, what's the right hand
Yes.
page.
Because I think that's like the only tool we as comic creators we really have is like the page flip. I try like very consciously to make sure that the bottom right panel is a micro cliffhanger that forces you to flip the page, and that there's any type of reveal or surprise or emotional beat happens on a page turn, because that's like more impactful. And there's like that makes editing such a pain in the ass. Like because if I ever want to add a single panel, I have to change the entire structure of the spread to make sure that fits, or like edit or add like a 2.5 pages in order to make the spreads end up in the right place. So that made script editing really hard. So even in the script phase, I was labeling consciously, this is a left, this is a right, because I that I think is so important.
Yeah,
And I
no, I
use a lot
mean,
of 2-page spreads where that matters.
it's really the nature of comics in a lot of
Yeah.
ways. Interestingly, not really commercial American superhero comics though,
Uh-huh.
because nobody who's drawing them has any idea what's going to be on the left and what's going to be on the right because of the advertisements that are inserted. You know?
Oh, fair.
Yeah, no, I hear this all the time from people who do superhero stuff that
Interesting.
they want to try and plan for this stuff, and sometimes they have to really fight for with an editor.
Yeah.
Like, no, you must put this ad on the left hand side. You have to. It
Yeah.
doesn't work if it's on the right. But yeah, no,
Interesting.
they don't know what their pagination is going to be, which
That sounds
is
impossible. Yeah.
right, right.
And that's how like I don't like so much reading like webtoons. They're infinite vertical scroll for that same kind of reason, where it's just like you lose to me a huge part of the effective like possibilities. When you the biggest thing you can do is force the reader to scroll through white space for a while to make a beat land or whatever. Like this,
Yep.
there's nothing like a page turn to a big spread. That's what I live for.
Yeah, no, I absolutely hear you. I think it's part of kind of the quintessential thing of comics, and I very much think that the page is the unit. It's not
Mhm.
the individual panels. How panels flow on the page, of course, is critical, but it's the page that's the
Yeah.
unit. And once you remove that page from a physical thing,
Yeah.
comics become much harder to read. And I think
Mhm.
in fact, I think it's one of the reasons that digital comics have never taken off in America.
Mm.
And it's because you've lost the boundaries of the outside boundaries of the page,
Yeah.
which means that that whole like comicsology guided reading where
Uh-huh.
they would
I
treat one
hated
panel at a
that.
time,
Yes.
right? Like,
Yes.
oh,
I couldn't stand that.
and they
Totally
thought that
agreed.
was the greatest thing in the world, and yet
Uh-huh.
that's not how people read comics. And you
Yeah.
break comics, you can ruin the effect sometimes by breaking them out that way.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally agree.
yeah, yeah.
So
Um, what were you particularly proud of in
hmm.
this book?
I think that we've kind of talked about it already, but that final flashback where we
Mm,
have the couple different timelines coming together,
yeah,
um, reflecting the parents meeting on the parents like departing
yeah,
with each other.
yeah,
That was the thing that I really wanted to land most. I'm not sure if that is actually the thing that's going to like make people cry, as opposed to just like the mom dies at the end, and that's there's a lot of emotional beats towards the very end. But that whole sequence, I'm really happy with.
yeah.
The structure of the book in general, I think it came out kind of unique. Like I didn't, I both the structure of that chapter and the structure of the whole book actually were inspired by music for me.
Mm, mhm, mhm,
Because
mhm.
like I love jazz, and I love when there's like two soloists that'll do like 8 bars from one soloist, then 8 bars from them, and then four, and then four, and then two, and then two, and then one, bum, 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 bum,
Yeah.
bum. And that's kind of how I structured that final flashback. Was
Mhm.
to try to like, I think it has a really big emotional effect. The final two spreads where, um, I can pull it up actually if we want,
Sure.
because I don't know how much. There's a lot of things that I did that I don't know if they're obvious to readers or not. Um,
Well, also, like you said, readers read comics differently than you create them, right?
Absolutely, yeah,
Some people blow through, some people, but the other thing is that people go backwards all the time in comics, which is not something
right,
that happens in music or in prose, right? Like you never rewind a song in the middle, you know?
totally, yeah, you're right, right. This like spread where when finally they all come together, and then
Mhm.
the composition of this left spread is the exact like framing composition proportions of this other spread. And my hope was that when you turn the page, it feels like it morphs before your eyes,
Yeah, yeah,
which
yeah.
it works for me. I don't know if it's like a subtle thing or if it's totally obvious, but that's something I can really well.
It's
Um,
funny because kind of 2 or 3 pages earlier, page 252 was maybe my favorite page where the
yeah,
flashbacks are happening inside of the panel, right? Like
Yeah, yeah,
there's
yeah.
a little chunk there,
The
and there's a little
crack.
chunk here, and it cracks, and it's yeah.
Yeah,
I really thought that was a very effective page, even though it's very small and very subtle. I really like that page a lot.
I'm really
Uh,
glad to hear that. Yeah,
yeah.
I was happy with how that looked too. Yeah, this whole
Hmm.
chapter, I love this chapter so much. I don't know.
Hmm.
Like, I think like, it sounds a little full of myself, but like, I can happily pick up the book, my own book, and read chapter 8 onwards. I feel like I get a lot of, or even 6 onwards. And it's nice to be able to feel emotions from my own work, which it took a while to get back to that point, but now I feel like I can read my own work and feel something. Facial expressions are another thing that I think, if I were to pick a thing that I'm good at, I would argue that that's something that I think that I do at a decently high level.
Yeah.
I still have a lot of work to grow, but I think that I can make a fair. I think that was an early piece of advice I got in classes was you can't just make a comic of two people talking. It has to be like you have to do more action, you have to zoom out more. And I was like, I don't know if I agree. I want to show character faces. Because I think the reason was like you can't, like, movies can get away with it because there's a lot of minutia in a person's expression. And I
Sure.
was like, I can depict it. I'm gonna get there where I can depict enough like detail in an expression that it's compelling. And I'm not sure if I entirely got to that level, but I do think that that's something I really tried very hard on, and I think that looks pretty good. So those are the things I would say that I'm specifically most proud of.
Do you, when you're drawing, do you like have a mirror there where you're doing it that way, or you just is it all in your head?
It depends. I A lot of it comes from my head in terms of like when I'm visualizing.
Mhm.
I will definitely take a selfie or picture of my partner to figure out some stuff that I couldn't imagine in my head. Like, what are your facial muscles exactly doing? Like, what is it that
Mm,
makes something look concerned versus angry? It's the, you know, it's where most of the lines are. They here, are they on the nose? Like little
right,
things
right,
like
right.
that that you have to kind of study. That I definitely take reference. I don't use a mirror. I don't know why. It's the future, I guess. I can just like take a picture of myself, but it's the same. It's the same thing, basically.
And I'm sorry for being old from
No,
the way
no, no.
it's that question.
It's way cooler to have a mirror. Norman Rockwell did it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. And then so where do you think you need the most improvement?
I think that I talked about line weights. That stuff I think I need I clarity in my composition as well. Those are things that I think I have a lot of work to do. Um, Even though I think the art, and and I'm very happy to see a lot of praise for the art of the book, but I do think that it can be muddy at times. And that's not intentional really. I want it to be detailed but clear. So that's something I'm going to work more on. And I think that, again, I've talked about a lot. I'm an artist first. I think that probably comes through. I don't think I have like, I think my prose is serviceable probably,
Sure.
but I think it's not like this. Not I'm not Ram V or whatever. Like it's not like super literary, and the prose is not the thing that's doing the heavy lifting. It's mostly the art, and so I'd like to improve the actual poetry of my work and the use of language to be, at the level of the art. I think the art is carrying the story. I think my story writing at a high level is good, but at a micro level, it could be more compelling, I think.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say at any point that I didn't hit any clunkers, you know.
That's
I
good.
didn't hit anything that was like, oh, this is taking me out of the story, you know.
That's great.
Uh yeah, and like in terms of the clarity of the line, it's a little hard here because of the muted palette, right?
Mm,
And
mm.
the muted palette makes I think it makes some things less clear as a result,
I think you're right.
right?
Yeah.
It makes the lines thinner than they are.
Yeah.
If you understand what I mean.
I think I saw it because I actually drew this, like when I was making the comic, it was in black and white and grayscale. And
Hmm.
then I would apply this like gradient map turn each tone into the equivalent tone of another color, or I had different colors for each tone, kind of a thing. So I manually edited it, but I could see that it was the grays looked better than the colors to me. I think
Mm,
actually it ended up looking nice in print. I think the digital versions are a little muddier even, but
mm,
um,
interesting.
I
Yeah.
think in the future I want to do. I think the way that Rosemary Valero O'Connell did in Laura Dean Speaking Up With Me, where it's black and white and gray, and then like splashes of one color.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love how that looked. I think it's a lot clearer. I think it fits my manga sensibilities better. So I think that's what I'm going to try to do for the next book, if they let me. We'll see.
I mean, I will say though, whatever minor criticism I'm giving you, this is a fantastic first graphic novel. That it really, really is, Robert. You should
Thank you.
be very proud of this, and yeah, and
Thank you.
I think you should be really proud of this. I really do.
Thank you very much, Brian.
Yeah,
It means a lot. It's
yeah.
like, it's, as you've heard from a lot of artists, it takes a long time and it's extremely isolating. It's like being obsessed with a new show, but there's not a single soul in the world that knows anything about it because it's literally you made it. So being at this stage now where I can talk about it, and hear, I don't know, how anybody thought about it and that it actually landed with people, it really means a lot to me. It really feels worth it. So thank you.
Is there anything that you put in the book that like literally no one's asked you about, or said anything and you're like, wait, I worked so hard on this particular thing?
It's a good question. I think there are things. I think like this is another thing I got from music. I'm also kind of a music head, I guess. Um, I love when art has like, I think the perfect work of art is enjoyable at a really surface level, and then has like depth that you can get into, and that has layers and layers and layers of depth and metaphor that if you keep studying, if you keep looking into it, you'll find things. So I tried to do that. I tried to intentionally put some really like the symbology I talked about, where there's like symbolism where this represents this in this, like in the language of Persian rugs. Nobody, I mean, maybe people who studied it will know that, but nobody else is going to know that, and that's okay with me. I think it's cool for people to find that, like here's this is a very specific rug, I wonder what that is. I don't know how you would search that, but there's a reason that this rug looks like this, because I picked one that is like specifically like a Persian Armenian found rug or whatever. There's like a bit in chapter 4, there's the first like real blue flashback. I can pull it up too, where you see like young Soren shows up and it's like, what is this? Right after like they fail their dish and everything goes to shit. And he's holding this like weird thing. And what he's holding, he's supposed to be holding like the door, Oz's door. But in my head, I was like, that's too much of a spoiler. They'll know this is sort of, they'll figure the whole plot out if I do this, which is certainly not true. But so I kind of made it more dreamy by having him hold this, like, I forgot even what it's called, but it's the symbol. It's like this Armenian sun symbol that kind of represents the Armenian people. And then snapdragons, this flower, which like in flower symbology represents like deceits and lies. And so that those two symbols together is meant to represent what he, like Oz's promise was to him. I don't expect anyone to ever figure that out. I just kind of did it for me. I did it to be able to say it in an interview like this, to feel cool, I guess. But I like to have layers like that. I love symbology. I love detail. I think the presence of weird oddities like that, even if no one's going to get it, is still information that I think makes the art deeper. So I'm okay with having lots of little things that no one's going to figure out. I think that's
Yeah, I
part
mean,
of the.
I think particularly with comics, right? Like you can put stuff in, and like maybe the audience won't pick it up until the 10th reading or the 20th reading, right? Like
And that's, yeah.
this is how I feel about, let's say, Watchmen, right?
Yeah.
Like I reread Watchmen every year, every 18 months, something like that, and I still will encounter something that's like, oh shit,
Yeah.
whoa, wait, how have I read this 9 times and not seen this little background thing
Yeah.
that, like, oh, they set that up like 18 pages ago. Neat, you know?
I think
Um,
that's what makes like great art. That's like,
yeah,
I know I'm not like, I'm still a little fledgling, but I wanted to, try to do the things that make art persist. And I think like when you work this hard on a graphic novel, you want people to read it a bunch of times. So
yeah,
I tried to make it so that you get a lot out of multiple rereadings. So I hope that people will like it enough to want to do that. I
yeah.
do try to set things up early on, and background characters that show up later and stuff like that.
No, I absolutely think so. I mean, without having only read it twice, but yes, I absolutely think so.
Twice is pretty good.
Yeah, well, I had to read it once to pick it for the club, and then I read it again before I interviewed you. Just
Nice.
because. refresh myself and go, oh yeah, that and that, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, different parts of my brain reading it though is
Yeah. Fair.
interesting. Yeah, no, I like this quite a bit. You have do you have family in Armenia now?
Yes, actually. Although my family is not from Armenia. My family is from mostly Beirut,
Oh,
Lebanon,
okay.
and Kesab, Syria. That's an oddity of being Armenian, is like Western Armenians like myself are Armenians of the we're like a diasporans of whatever. That's part of what I'm kind of reflecting here. Like, is that my food that I grew up with is as Lebanese as it is Armenian.
Mm,
But a
mhm,
lot of them have repatriated to Armenia because it's a bit more stable than Lebanon and Syria. Though the bar is quite low. But yeah, so I do
I hear.
currently have cousins in Armenia.
Hmm. How do you have? Let's just veer to the political for a second. Do you have any
Yeah,
feelings about this week's news?
yeah, I have thought about it. I mean, Iran is such an interesting study because, like, I mean, you've probably read Persepolis, so you probably are familiar with the history there. Um, so I think that the Iranian people are way more progressive than maybe the media lets them out to be, and I think that there's some good, I guess, to be had from a regime change. I do not trust the players at
Right.
play to make a good regime change. I know that is not the incentive. So I think it is probably a net negative, but yeah. And obviously there's been so much casualties, innocent casualties. So I think it is generally an awful thing. I don't know. Yeah. It's been hard to find hope in the region in a lot of ways. Like Syria was an interesting one where like there's been a regime change. Is there good there? Like he's saying a lot of good things, but then like the treatment of like Kurdish populations in Syria is not going so well. There's been conflict. So anyway, I don't trust Trump and Israel to do anything good, frankly.
No, I mean,
um,
as an American, I agree with you, and
yeah.
I think it really appears to me like no one has thought through what the regime change could even be, right?
Well,
Like,
I
you know,
think that if anyone has, it's Saudi Arabia and Qatar. I think that those
uh,
are the ones who've been putting a lot of money in Trump's pockets, and that's probably someone who has a lot to gain from this engagement.
I would guess that you were very right about that, but I also think that there's a lot of I don't know, magical thinking going on here of,
Yeah.
well, if we cut off the head of the snake, then, yeah,
Yeah.
the people will rise up and it'll be
Yeah.
a democracy or something. Like, yeah, that ain't gonna happen, man. That's not how that shit happens. I
Right.
mean,
And I
I,
don't think there's any hope. I don't think that there's, yeah. Do they want a democracy or do they want like something that they can intentionally weaken and abuse, you know?
yeah,
So yeah, it's tough. I know. I was talking to Amir Sayed Abdi, is someone who consulted on the book with a lot of the Persian historical elements and language. Um, his family is mostly in New Zealand now. So yeah, it's rough there, but yeah, it's hard to say what's going on because of information cutoff. So hopefully people are surviving.
yeah, agreed, very much agreed. Cool. That was our political part of the
Yeah,
conversation.
I think it's
Sorry,
important.
I just had to ask. Armenia shares a border, so I just,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, as someone who studies the Middle East and has a lot of love for the Middle East, it's impossible not to be politically engaged if you're going to be like at all informed. I think
yeah,
like there's so much that's part of the thesis of this book and my art that I want to do for all the books I'll make is to just show how much cultural beauty there is outside of, you know, the suffering and religious conflict and war, because that's really all that ever gets depicted about the Middle East. So I just want to say, like, there's so much beauty. There was a time where it was a lot more peaceful, and there was a lot more. There's just art and math was all comes from this region, and there was just
yep.
thriving cultures that I want to reflect.
Yep. Well, you they certainly don't teach that in American schools.
Yeah,
I remember. I mean, it was someone being a wag on Reddit or something, but like somebody like was posting from some MAGA people who were like, I can't believe that they're teaching Arabic numerals in the schools. Like, what are you talking about? That's where numerals come from, you
Yeah.
morons.
Yeah.
Good Lord. I despair for this country being so powerful and yet so goddamn ignorant
Oh yeah.
so much of the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's
Yeah.
put that aside.
Yeah.
I I really you did a great job here, man. I've said that too many times. But
You can keep saying it. It's fine by me.
yeah, all right. What's and so we'll let's wrap the interview up because
Okay.
we've been an hour now. So that's,
Yeah.
oh, we've been a little more than an hour actually. Wow, God, we've been 90 minutes. So the last questions, like the first, are like actually programmed and I know what I'm asking.
Okay.
The first one is what's next? You have
Mhm.
something else that you're working on? Do you have?
I This book took a lot of planning, and this is like an age old adage. Like you have your whole life for your first thing, and then you have a month for your second thing. So it took me a long. I spent the entire last year basically working on a pitch that just got rejected. So I have other ideas. Whatever I do next will certainly be within this Lands of Zom. I'm going to keep it within this world. Um, there's not going to be a direct sequel, but it will be this Middle Eastern fantasy universe. I still continue to maintain my goals. Um, I continue to want to use language and ornament and food, maybe. Yeah, I have a couple different ideas that we'll see what they bite on, but it'll be. My intent will always be to do the same broader political purpose and to tell an intricate, tight, and emotional story. But I've nothing I can share that's more specific than that.
Oh, understood. Are you the deal that you made with PRH, was it a multi-book deal or was it a okay?
It was just a single book deal, but they liked me enough that they are like again they rejected this pitch, but like they bring us something else. Like we want to see other ideas you have. They want to work with me. So I think unless I really beef it, I think that I've got another book with them.
And well, so but this is the other part of my question is the pitch that they rejected, could you take that to other publishers?
I
Or
believe
did you take it?
I have not. I
You want to dance with who brung you? I got it. I got it.
we'll see. I think like honestly, the struggle with this pitch. I don't know if this is too much inside baseball, frankly, or like too much. I don't know if I can say, but I wanted to make again like this time. I was like, I'm gonna make a serialized thing. Like I really want to make a manga, frankly. Like I thought this was too short and too long. If I'm doing something serialized, I see the appeal now. I can people can read my story while I'm working on it. I can have feedback. I can talk to people. I won't have to go into a cave for 5 years again.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that was sort of what I wanted to do. I kind of morphed that into a more PRH friendly thing where it was a duology, and they were like that didn't really work, which is fair, totally fair. So I think I may reformat that back into a serialized story and just keep it on the back burner. There's no way I'm putting that down because
Mm-hmm.
I'm really excited about the characters. The fact that I'm not going to see them for a long time is like truly makes me want to cry. I loved the story and the characters that I came up with. So someday I hope we will see it.
Okay. And you invested a year of
Yeah.
trying to do this. Do you think that like you can pitch something faster? I mean,
And part of that year was coming up with a lot of different ideas, actually.
yeah.
So
Okay.
I'm much closer on the next thing. I pretty much have the high level. I just
Uh-huh.
need to like get a beat by beat synopsis, and then I'm pretty much set. And I have to design new characters, I guess. Maybe I'll pull some from the other idea. I don't know, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Because I think by and large, if you want free career advice,
yeah.
uh
Work faster.
staying on the market is important, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it I think is the fundamental problem with working on graphic novels is that you disappear for most people only for 2 years, but for a couple of years off the marketplace.
Yeah.
um I would point to something like maybe Dan Clowes
Hmm.
and like a Velvet Glove Cast in Iron, right? That was
Okay.
serialized in 8 ball,
Uh,
and because it was being serialized, he had to finish that story. And
Yeah.
then when it was finished, the publishers had to put it into a book, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If he was just doing graphic novels at that point in his career, Like a Velvet Glove would almost certainly have been abandoned in midstream, you know?
Uh-huh.
There's pros and cons to that, right? Like
Mhm.
it's not a fully formed book. It's
Uh-huh.
maybe not even a good book on a lot of ways, but it's an important book for him as a creative person to have moved his skill forward on,
Yeah.
and yeah, like wasting time on vaporware
Yeah.
is hard, right? Like
Yeah.
you need to keep getting your work out and getting your work visible in front of people as much as you can.
Yeah.
um
Yeah, you're
so
right.
like even to the point where if you could, if you can just, find some work in anthologies or something for a
Mm.
while where you're working in the same similar space, but you're just regularly producing work just to keep
Yeah.
that muscle going and to keep that name recognition going, is probably a valuable thing. You don't want it to
Yeah.
disappear for 5 years, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think you're
Because
right.
most importantly, and I'll say this as a bookseller, right? The audience doesn't know who you are until you get at least three spines on the shelf, right?
Okay.
Once you have that three is a arbitrary number,
Sure.
but once you have that rack presence
Yeah.
of, oh, I see these 3 volumes of Walking Dead, I will now start paying attention to that.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Whereas if you have one spine and then you don't have another thing for 5 years, by the time your next book comes out, this may not even be on the shelf anymore. I mean, it probably
True.
will be, but you know what I'm saying, right?
No, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Hmm.
yeah, that rack presence, because as a cartoonist, um your ability to make money over a long period of time is, I think, dependent on your rack presence and keeping shit in print, you know
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah.
stuff. If it's not in print, like you spent 5 years
Yeah.
and then ended up with nothing at the end of the day. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
I this is why I really feel, I don't know, bad is the wrong word, but people who primarily do mainstream superhero comics, even people who were immensely famous. Think of a Chris Claremont or a John Byrne.
Mm.
Chris Claremont can't get arrested at Marvel Comics or DC Comics anymore, right? Like
Mm.
they have literally no interest in anything that they do other than, oh yeah, I guess we owe you something, and so we'll give you this mini
Mm.
series that we're not going to promote, right? Like it's a
Yeah.
weird place to be as a creator if you don't have your body of work. Whereas someone like, I don't know, Mike Mignola, looking over my
Uh-huh.
bookshelf over here, has got this many books now, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so he's going to constantly make money from those things because he's got a big body of work.
Yeah.
If your concern is like making a living off of this,
Yeah. And I was gonna say that I think, again, luckily I have a partner who
yeah,
works. I think that my concern, at least so far, and we'll see what my life looks like in the future, is really just to make the best possible book I can make
oh,
at a time. I really want to just, yeah, I care more about the books themselves than anything else. That's why I think I took a whole year, because I
yeah,
wasn't just happy. I wasn't happy with what I had. I didn't want to just pitch just anything. I really wanted to, I really want to make something hopefully that's exceptional. That's like, I don't want to waste time on something that I'm not extremely proud of. So that's part of why it's taking me so long. And I think I'm okay with it taking a long time, but I also don't want, I want to be able to keep doing this full time, which does require money. So that's more, as long as I can do it, as long as I can live, that's really
yeah,
all I'm looking to do.
yeah.
um,
Yeah, and look, I mean, there's
yeah.
absolutely counterexamples. Craig
Mm-hmm.
Thompson would be a good one. Craig
Mm-hmm.
Thompson, did blankets, and then he disappeared for 5 years, and then he came out with Habibi, and like everybody
Yeah.
really liked that. But it's harder. It's much harder because the audience forgets. There's
Mm-hmm.
always someone new coming along, and the audience forgets. So
Yeah.
anyway,
That's fair.
enough of me scaring you. That was not.
No, that's fair. No, it's good advice. I mean, it's all good to hear. So
All right, and then the last question is, this is a series of interviews. We've been doing the Graphic Novel Club for 10 years now. This is the start of the 11th
congrats.
year. So just from the adult, that's, over 120 interviews on the adult space. Then we also have a kids club. So that's like, we're at like 250, almost
Yeah.
300 interviews, something like that at this
Wow.
point. So it's a series, and it's a series that some people watch because they want to make comics themselves, right?
Hmm.
And so I hear from a good number of people, yeah, I want to make comics, but I don't think I'm any good, or I don't think my ideas are good, or I don't think I draw well enough, or any of those other kind of imposter syndrome kind of things, right?
Uh-huh.
So, with that in mind, what might be the piece of advice that you would
Mhm.
give to an aspiring cartoonist, um, uh,
Yeah.
to move themselves forward? Could be
I
something
think,
spiritual, it can be something physical, it
uh,
could be something technical,
yeah,
anything
no,
you want,
great.
man.
I mean, you know, I was showing this earlier. Like, I think that having the feeling that your art is no good, or your writing is no good, is a really important step. For me, like, being comfortable with that, I think is what helps me grow quickly. I think that when you think your art sucks, that means your visualization is better than your skill, like your eyes better than your hands, and that's the stage at which you grow really fast. So I think harness that and just make comics anyway. Make comics that suck. Get it end to end. Learn what you learn out of it and move quickly. Like, don't make that big project right now if you don't think you're ready. Make a lot of little things. And like, I mean, this I finished this in 2018, and then 2019, 2020, I did other things. 2021, I pitched the book and got it made. And I kept improving the whole time. I think I ended up with a book that at least people are saying the art is very good. And it started off only, you know, 5 years before looking like complete dog shit. So I think, like, I think that people make fun of artists for always being hard on themselves, but I think that you can harness that for good. I think that you can enjoy the process of improvement, um, be hard on yourself, but proud of your growth in a way that I think is emotionally healthy and realistic. I think that helps people. I think that helped me. For me, that's what helped me create and be happy with my work and actually get a book. So that's what worked for me.
That's a fantastic answer. I really like that answer a lot, man. That's good. Excellent. Well, dude, seriously, thank you for taking the time talking to me today, man.
Thank you. I mean, I had fun. I love talking about my own work,
Yeah,
so I'm happy to do it. And
yeah,
and you had great advice. It's also like someone who's been in the industry for so long. It's always like everyone. Comics are so many things to so many people, and so it's interesting to hear everyone's different angles and experiences.
yeah.
So
Well, and I'm not right all the time either.
yeah, no one
I,
is.
I've been doing it since 1989, but it's the world changes constantly.
True.
Everything has truth and falsehood. Cool. Well, I got to do a little bit of bookkeeping here. I'm gonna push you to the side. You're not actually gonna disappear from the screen right now,
Okay.
but pretend that you're not on the screen
Okay.
for just a second while I kind of do a little thing, and then I'll bring it back in to wrap it up. um so hey, hi, you sitting at home, how you doing today? You okay? Everything okay? We're in a weird world. It's even weirder. Like, this has been a really weird month, and things happening, and but we always have comics, right? We always have stories that touch us and that move us and that make us feel good. And to that end, I really, really, really want to recommend to you Fustuk. It is a fantastic book. You are really, really going to love it. Um, we're happy to sell you a copy. If you buy a copy from us, you will get a signed book plate that Robert on each one of them drew an individual a div on. They're very, very cool looking, and you will be happy with that. But you don't have to buy it from me. There's a thing on the bottom of the screen right now that'll tell you what to do. But you don't have to buy it from me. You can buy it from your local store. Hell, get it from the library. Librarians are your friends. The library is the greatest place in the world. Just get the book and you will really, really enjoy it. It has got actual human emotions of actual humans and a lot of kind of wonderful imaginative fantasy. It will teach you something about cultures that you don't understand necessarily, and you will feel good learning those things because it's there's enough universal things in here that that you'll feel right at home. So Really, really recommend this book. Go ahead and buy it. Okay. Um, I have a couple thank yous I want to make. First and foremost, let me thank my son Ben, who's the producer of the show, sets up these interviews, he does the things. I could not do the show without a solid producer, so thank you, Ben. I want to thank the staff of my store. I want to thank Katie and Jordan and Charlie and Oline. I've got a great staff. They give me the freedom to sit and talk to comic book creators about art, which is one of my favorite things to do in the world. But if I like had to do all of the work that they do, I wouldn't have time to do this kind of thing. So thank you, my wonderful, wonderful staff. It means so much to me. I want to thank all the people who watch these videos and who subscribe. If you have not yet subscribed, do the thing, hit the bell. Right, everybody knows how to do this at this point. Still, do it because it makes a big difference. I want to thank everybody who's a member of the club in particular. Having the ability to tie these interviews to we've sold X number of copies makes a huge, huge difference to the creators, and it makes a huge difference to publishers being willing to work with us to do this. So, please consider joining the club, and you will get excellent comics like this every single month. And it really matters a lot. Which reminds me, next month, see, I always forget my order of operations here. Next month, the adult club is a book called The Ends by David and Maria Lapham. I am so looking forward to talking to David and Maria Lapham. I have been huge, enormous fans of theirs for decades. And David did a book called Stray Bullets, which was probably the best crime comic ever done. I love it so much. And so I'm really looking forward to talking to him. And then next month's kids book is called The Extraordinary Voyages. It is by two Europeans whose names I do not have memorized. But it's this beautiful book that's kind of like a Jules Verne story in comics form. I think the kids will really like that. So looking forward to those two in the next month. And then the last of my thank yous is I've thanked my staff, I've thanked my producer, I've thanked all of you, the fans, but the last and the most important one is it's literally people like Robert right here. Hi Robert. If it wasn't for you making wonder and making magic in the pages of a book like this, then I would be sitting in a store that is filled with blank pages, right? And the world needs stationery stores. Don't get me wrong, it's not something that I want to do. I like sitting in a dream world and a world of imagination and of thought and of heart. And so thank you, Robert. Thank you for doing what you did. And I really hope that 10 years from now, I'm going to be able to look back and go, there's 3 more books on my shelf that are by him that are just as good as this. And I expect that to happen because for a first book, this was so, so good, man.
Thank you so much. It means a lot. And thank you for existing, because otherwise I wouldn't have any reason to make this. No one would read it.
Yeah, very good. Well, with those thank yous, again, thank you for talking to us today. I'm glad you had a good time.
Yeah.
I look forward to the future when we can do this again, my friend. If you ever come to San Francisco, please let me know. I would love to have you in. We'll do something in the store.
Absolutely.
You can come in. You can see we have this really, really cool bathroom where everybody who's ever come through is drawn on our wall. So
Ooh.
we've got Raina Telgemeier next to the Hernandez brothers, next to Neil Gaiman, next to Tom King, next to Dan Clowes, right? Like it's this crazy, it's really
Hell
crazy
yeah.
actually. So yeah. Anytime you come to San Francisco, please let me know, man. I'd love to do something with you. All
I'll
right.
definitely come by if I ever come to San Francisco in the near future, which I hope to.
Yeah.
So
It's a beautiful place. You'd love it.
yeah.
Okay. With that, then we're going to wave goodbye and end the show. So take care. We'll see you all next time. Thank you for watching this episode of the Graphic Novel of the Month Club. If you enjoyed what you were watching, please subscribe and hit that bell up in the top corner. If you enjoyed the books that we're talking about and the creators that we're talking to, every month we pick a brand new book. The staff votes on it. It's a program that helps keep our store alive, and we'd love to have you as a member. You'll get a new book every month. Just follow that URL at the bottom of the screen.